Oh, maresy dotes, and dozy dotes, and little lambsy divey. But what of the kidly divey? We want to know. Wouldn't you?
All this and more on this episode of Hare and Hare.
But first, the news.
You are tuned to WNDR, the voice of Wonderland. I'm M. Turtle. Here are the headlines. According to a new study published by the Institute of Chicanery, life itself may actually be a dream. A recent paper from Dr. Quacklebottom of the Quantum Metaphysics Laboratory at the IOC posits the theory that the entirety of existence may in fact be produced by the dreams of the Red King. A spokesman for the Institute issued a statement today urging the public not to wake him. A tense confrontation between a Bandersnatch armed with a Vorpal sword and Her Majesty's Royal Guard last week has led to fresh calls for Vorpal control from the Minority Club Party. A bill was introduced into Parliament by Gordon Littlefinch, the representative from Discognia, a region plagued in recent years with rising numbers of Vorpal-based shenanigans. The bill was not expected to gain traction and is opposed by the National Vorpal Association. The search for a family of oysters last week was abruptly ended when authorities came upon what appeared to be a mass grave of shells along the shoreline. Details are being withheld from the general public as the search continues for one man armed with a hammer and another suspect identified as either a manatee or a walrus. This week's weather is expected to be weathered whether we like it or not. Ahead this hour, Hare and Hare field your questions on the topics of physical detachment and fisticuffery. You are tuned to WNDR. The time is currently none of your business.
Hello, and welcome to Ask Hare and Hare. I'm Hare.
And I'm Hare, here to answer all those burning questions you can't quite get the salve into. Now let's get started, shall we?
This one is from a gentleman simply going by the moniker PK. And I should point out that the stationery smells strongly of cheap aftershave and... yes, that is clearly cat piss.
Hello, PK.
PK writes simply, Dear Hare and Hare, I've just taken a 10-strip of LSD accidentally. Which limb do I remove first? Now, I'm going to begin by saying that this is clearly a question that is intended as a joke, and yet...
It's a very good question.
And so we will treat it with absolute respect, despite PK not giving us the same courtesy.
I suppose we're just better people, aren't we?
Clearly. So, what say you? Which limb first? To me, it's obvious.
I'd say to remove your dominant hand first.
Wait, what? I'd wager that removing a toe from your non-dominant foot would likely do the least long-term harm.
I wholeheartedly disagree.
Explain.
You see, I'm working under the assumption that once he comes back to his senses, such as they are, PK is going to regret the decision to remove limbs, but that while he is under the influence of this marvellous mind-altering drug, he's going to want to continue removing limbs until he is no longer able, in which case you want to remove the most useful limb first, because it would be the hardest to remove. You ever attempt to do anything useful with your non-dominant hand?
I have, and it is frustrating, surely.
Exactly. Chances are he'll get frustrated and bored before the whole thing even comes off. And in the off chance that he actually gets that limb off, removing the others will become that much more difficult without the dominant hand and all.
Fascinating.
Thanks.
This begs a larger question. Say you really do, in full capacity of your mental resources, such as they are, wish to remove all of your limbs. In which order do you remove them?
Oh, that's easy. Do you have an answer for this one?
I do. I admit to thinking of it frequently.
Ooh, I got an idea. Hey, let's say our answers at the same time.
All right. Ready?
Yeah.
Right foot, left leg up to the knee, left arm, right leg from stump to groin, left leg from knee to groin, stick a long sword out of the ground, blade up, right next to a large playground slide, and slide down the slide with right arm out so that the long sword severs it. That's delightful.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yes. Well, by the way, you listening at home, make sure that you've got someone on hand to cauterize the wound.
Safety first.
Always. At any rate, PK, hope you enjoy your trip, and here's a wish for many safe returns.
Even if you were clearly taking a piss.
Clearly.
This is an alert from the Royal Emergency Proclamation Service. Please stand by for information and instructions from Her Royal Highness. This is an alert from the Royal Emergency Proclamation Service.
Hello, loyal subjects. Now hear this. At investment bank Donaldson, Lufkin and Jenred, DLJ, interns were torn through like snotty tissues, cluttering the platinum gutters at the corner of Madison and 23rd. I got a job there right out of college at the front concierge desk, an island of uniformed outcasts in a cavernous marble room lined with friezes of Greek gods and goddesses. The building was a historic landmark and looked like a set from a 1930s Orson Welles movie about beautiful people and steely moguls. It felt like power and money and all the things I never grew up around. We spent our days working through hangovers and catching occasional glimpses of the people who worked on the well-protected, almost mythic 27th floor. No one could go up there without permission, the elevators watched by thick-necked security guards. Sitting in the lobby, all clad in blue polyester, we'd watch the famous and wealthy get shuffled from town cars, through the grand revolving doors, across the marble floors, into the elevator. We'd follow their tight entourages with our jaded gazes and wonder what things happened up there. What conversations went on that our ears would never hear. I worked my way up, and eventually I found myself on floor 10 in a small pocket of young full-time employees in the HR department. It felt like a triumph, the secret chant of, "I'm making it in the city, I'm making it in the city," rattling around in my skull. I was surviving on my own in New York City at 22. I had health insurance and a 401k, the middle-class dream. Fuck yeah. There was a steady stream of nameless interns running through the building all over the trading floors, compliance desks, operations. Instead of serving large groups of people, they usually only served one or two. There were often more interns than desks, which is why each floor had a small room with a couch, a Bloomberg machine, and a video ticker. The room acted as a holding pen for when their eager hands got in the way. Each intern had a beeper that would let them know when they were needed, sort of like waiting for a table at the Macaroni Grill. We even had an intern for our small part of the sprawling HR department. She, like the other interns, carried her beeper on her hip as a mark of pride, a small printed sticker with her initials placed over the gummy area left by former interns on the slim black plastic. She was as near a perfect girl as I had ever seen. Slim-hipped and big-busted, and every pen monogrammed, her pleats sharp, and the kind of ethereal blonde hair that seems fake, but isn't. She had that Ivy League patina of old money and gentility, but a fierceness under her always smiling face that said she'd gut someone to get to the top. Her name was Sarah. She looked like she would make more with her life than I would. She participated in all of the internal competitions regularly run for the interns, department heads voting and occasionally betting on winners and losers. It was a welcome break from the day to watch and was considered to be team building. That's how we logged it in our timesheets. A string of losses could lead to an intern simply not showing up for work anymore. Platinum gutter time. Some departments formed shady alliances like the infamous accounts receivable and marketing department juggernaut that eventually became blatantly, visibly corrupt and led to disqualifications. Most employees couldn't attend in person. The event seats were reserved for executives and those visiting clients. Instead, many of them were televised, in closed circuit on monitors that people crowded around. It was the only break as acceptable as a smoke break. Sarah was quickly becoming something of a competition star in the 3-building campus, and we knew that it was only a matter of time before she was promoted or hired away. She killed in the Szechuan cook-off, stunned at the office task decathlon, made some execs openly weep at her work in the in-house production of Night Mother. She volunteered at soup kitchens and could recite pi to 100 digits. She smelled like a mixture of gardenias and a library full of leather-bound books. She was the best of us, and unstoppable. Corporate personhood and the cult of legal personality. In the 1800s, the idea of corporate personhood began. What it essentially means is that a corporation is given legal and constitutional rights to sue as a person would. Binds up all the people in a company to act collectively, simplifies tax matters, so on. At DLJ, they took the idea of corporate personhood seriously, as most multinational corporations do. Peter Jenrette III, the chair of the board and the man responsible for placing the last 5 CEOs, called us his financial family and insisted it was his call in life to care for those under the golden parachute of his paternal leadership. The golden parachute thing was supposed to be a joke, but some of the higher execs took to wearing lapel pins in the shape of golden parachutes, and one department even went so far as to have a golden parachute making competition for its interns. That one was too small to be televised. There were rumblings in the market rags and on the trading floors about a possible merger with Credit Suisse First Boston, CSFB, a giant in the field of investment banking and a solid rival. Plenty of people were nervous about their jobs, and I hung near offices and intercepted inter-office mail as much as possible in order to suss out the situation. I had that kind of woozy electric feeling in my stomach that usually came before a huge summer storm. One day, Sarah's beeper vibrated. She was sitting next to me, and I saw on the tiny screen 91127. Her eyes widened, and I saw her hand shake for just a moment before she steadied it. Shit. She quickly excused herself and made her way down to the lobby to take the executive elevator to the 27th floor. It was the last time I'd see her. After she left, I ran to my desk to call my friend Julie, the receptionist on 27, to try to grill her for information. It was unheard of, at least to me, to see an intern get pulled up to the hallowed halls. Julie'd been up there for about 10 years and knew the lay of the land. She whispered for me to meet her for coffee after work. A holy alliance. Julie made me pinky swear at the coffee shop, hopefully away from prying ears. Still, she whispered and her eyes rolled frantically from side to side. Corporations are like forests of family trees, all part of the same root system, she told me, and there will apparently be a splicing of 2 forests. What the fuck do you mean? I whispered. Okay, fine. You have to promise not to breathe a word. Okay, there is going to be a marriage merger. A merger? A merge edge? She tried to chuckle. Her face then fell. Your intern, Sarah, is the chosen bride to seal the merger deal with Credit Suisse. I sat in stunned silence as she told me how things really work. Corporate personhood isn't just an idea. The heads of expansively large corporations, when close to a merger, do a sort of cockeyed courtship, offering gifts and enticements, flirting with balance sheets as they draw up the final agreements. And it is considered tradition for one company to quietly offer its most virile and promising male intern to be married to the other company's most beautiful and motivated female intern to join families. The competitions were just ways to vet the tokens, the best to ally with the best, proclaiming the sanctity of joining finances. They would form a legal personality that would then serve the corporate personhood as a sort of Mobius strip of clusterfucked self-affirmation. I refused to believe her until 3 months later when the merger began. We crowded around the small monitors to watch the announcement from our acting CEO. Auditorium C was full to the brim with the highest-ranking officials from DLJ and CSFB. The meeting was formal and dry and led to the laying off of about 5,000 people, myself included. On the same day the merger was announced, the New York Times printed a profile on the small but impeccably presented wedding of Sarah Wick, Harvard grad, DLJ, to Harris Northington, Yale grad, CSFB. In the photo, they both wore golden parachute pins. That is all, loyal subjects.
This has been a broadcast of the Royal Emergency Proclamation Service. If you have received this message in error or have had difficulty with the transmission of this material, report at your own risk. Thank you for your mandatory participation. Now back to our regularly scheduled program.
Yes, magnificent. Now that we've got that out of the way, we've got another question.
Yes, this one comes from Rachel H., who writes, Dear Hare and Hare, what is truly worth fighting for? That's a tough one, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I mean, just off the bat, I'd say love. Yeah, love is definitely worth the fight.
Yes, I suppose if you're into that sort of thing, yes.
Well, what would you say?
Well, I'd say basic human dignity is worth a good fight, seeing as how many are so loath to accept it as a basic right.
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you.
Also, your favourite sports league. That's worth bloodying a nose over.
Oh, definitely. Also, petty politics.
Pointed insults.
Imagined slights.
Religious superstition.
Ideological litmus tests.
Difference in interpretation of ancient texts.
Sensitivity to opinions that do not exactly mirror your own.
Mindless rage.
Mindful rage.
Blind, dumb rage.
Other people's sexuality.
Other people's bodies.
Other people's business in general.
Wait, I think we got off track.
Yes, I believe that the question was actually what is worth fighting for.
Oh, right. Then I'm going to go with love.
And I'll stick with human dignity.
Good.
Well, there you've got it, Rachel. Take our advice, or don't. As they say, we've not got a cock in that fight.
And that's all the time we've got for today. Thanks for spending a few minutes.
We hope it was edifying.
Remember to keep sending in your questions to askhareandhare@gmail.com. We really do look forward to hearing from you.
After all, we live to serve.
You have been listening to Ask Hare and Hare here on WNDR. Today's episode was written by Nicholas Tukoski with contributions from Bernard Clark and Mike Johns. The Queen's pronouncement today was Platinum Gutter Time by Gina Rikiki. Our podcast is edited by Grayson Bergman with additional material recorded by Mike Johns. Music is by Paul Mercer, thanks also to the continuing glorious guidance of Parker Davidson. Your voice talent today belonged to Gina Rikiki, Mike Johns, Bernard Sotero Clark, and Nicholas Tukoski. Have a question for Hare and Hare? You can get in touch at askhareandhare.com. The Inverted Hour is ahead next. You're listening to WNDR. I'm M. Turtle. Thank you for joining us. The time is drawing nigh.